In Tucson, Arizona, we are on day 22 in the search for Nancy Guthrie. And so far, investigators have received more than 40,000 tips, but so far, not one that has cracked this case. The Pima County Sheriff sharing that DNA analysis has been challenging as they're now working with a mixed sample. And now a group of volunteers as well has gathered to help find Nancy. NewsNation senior national correspondent Brian Enton is in Tucson tonight with the very latest. Brian, what more are we learning?
Yeah, the DNA news is not what people were hoping to hear. We talked about that last night, Natasha, that the sheriff is now calling it a challenging situation, that it could take maybe even a year to sort out, which people were hoping they would be getting results any day now. In terms of the volunteer search crews, it's the first time we've seen that happen, Natasha, and they all organized today. And they searched around Nancy Guthrie's home. They searched really in just the surrounding area. They went into tunnels. There's these drainage tunnels, dark tunnels that they were looking in. They were looking under rocks. It was quite a search. You can see some video here. At one point, they found a backpack, which the sheriff's office actually came out and retrieved. It didn't seem to match the backpack that we saw in the surveillance photos or the surveillance video. But it was just personal for a lot of people from this area who feel a connection to this case. Listen to what one woman told us.
My mother died many years ago, and she would be around Nancy's age now. And if this was her, I would want people to do what they could to help me find my mom. We can't change the past. We can only do what we can today. So the minute I heard that something had been organized, I was going to show up. So here we are. I didn't know him 3 hours ago, but we've teamed up on this.
You can hear the emotion in her voice, Natasha. I think a lot of people were just sort of waiting, watching law enforcement, but now feel like they want to do something. We've seen the flowers in front of Nancy Guthrie's house grow, and now we're starting to see these search parties. Natasha?
Yeah, appreciate that, and all the people who are trying to help in this case. Brian Enton live on the ground in Tucson tonight. Thank you. And for more, we are joined by genetic genealogist CeCe Moore. CeCe, it is so good to have you back. I know so many of our viewers, thousands of our viewers, watching our conversation from yesterday and hoping that this really could lead to the break in this case. First of all, what do you make of the sheriff's office now saying the DNA found in the home is mixed, that there's genetic material from more than one person? Explain to us, is this bad news or is this just a delay in the investigation?
Well, it's very concerning. We have successfully worked a lot of mixture cases in investigative genetic genealogy. So initially, I wasn't too concerned about it because you can sometimes have very straightforward mixtures where you have the victim's DNA and the perpetrator's DNA, and it's not difficult to deconvolute that, to separate out the perpetrator's DNA that you're trying to identify. But the fact that they are struggling with it tells me this is more of a complex mixture than I had hoped. That could be concerning. If there are multiple unknown people in that mixture, if there are 3 people in that mixture, then it comes down to what are the proportions. If none of those people have over, say, 40% contribution, that could be a real issue. I know we've done cases where there were multiple people in it, but one person, the primary contributor, shared 40% or more. So we were able to identify that person. Of course, I don't know the stats on this one, but the sheriff's update definitely concerned me and, made me a little bit more discouraged.
Yeah,
This case has a lot of ups and downs.
A lot of ups and downs, and I trust that discouragement and that gut feeling from you. Tell me a little bit more about what it means for timeline. Does it take months to disentangle multiple genetic pieces like that, or would they know fairly quickly if this is valueless because they're not able to disentangle these?
Well, I can only go on what he said. And the way he said it made me believe that at the moment they're stuck, but they are hoping for advancements in mixture deconvolution. So because genetic genealogy has been so helpful in so many cases, there are a lot of scientists and academics who are paying much more attention to what we do than they used to. And there are a lot of people researching right now on mixture deconvolution. In fact, one of the bioinformatics scientists from Parabon, where I work, had a grant to actually study more on mixture deconvolution. So I'm sure there's many other scientists out there working on this right now. It sounds like that might be what he's getting at, is that we need an advancement here. And this is
Understood.
exactly how we get advancements in the science, right? So it's not totally hopeless. Somebody could come up with a new technique tomorrow or next week that can help get, this particular person's DNA isolated. The other
Understood.
problem is if there's 3 unknown people, we don't know which one is the one that we need to ID either.
Right.
So if they've got his DNA, if they're able to isolate her kidnapper's DNA, he absolutely will be identified through investigative genetic genealogy. As I've said, it's a matter of time.
Yeah, tell me more about this, because it sounds like it should be easy, right? That genetic genealogy means that law enforcement will have access to these massive consumer databases like 23andMe and all the ones we know, and they'll be able to find a relative who matches the DNA at the crime scene, much like in the Brian Kohberger case. But you say there are major public misperceptions when it comes to genetic genealogy. Why is it not that simple?
Well, there are over 50 million people who have taken direct-to-consumer DNA tests, but the vast majority of those people's profiles are in the 3 biggest companies: Ancestry DNA, 23andMe, and MyHeritage. All 3 of those companies have barred law enforcement's use and access. So we are actually limited to the 3 smallest databases, which are Family Tree DNA, GEDmatch, and DNA Justice. And there are less than 2 million profiles for us to compare against in violent criminal cases. So that is going to make it much more difficult than if we had access to the 50 million people who've taken tests, many of whom believe we are using their DNA, even though they aren't in the databases that we can access.
If we had access to those 50 million cases, to those 3 big databases, do you think this could be solved in minutes?
I do, but only if they're able to isolate the kidnapper's DNA.
Right, it's this added layer now, this added complication.
Yeah.
What can I ask, what specifically needs to happen to compel these 3 big databases, the 23andMe and others, to help law enforcement in this case? And do you think that that is likely?
Well, I first approached them back in 2012, asking if this was something they're willing to do. And they were very resistant to it and have continued to be. In fact, Ancestry has become so resistant, they've now barred us from even using their digitized records, the billions of records, the public family trees, and their tree building software to do these types of cases. So it's gone the wrong direction, right? They've gotten less willing to help. So I think the only way they would is if there was a successful warrant. If the FBI or Pima County served them with a warrant for access to their database, which I think is a real strong possibility if they're able to isolate that DNA, it could happen. And I think they have a very strong legal argument. I'm not a legal expert, but based on what I've heard, it's a very strong argument that the attorneys would be making for law enforcement to access that database.
What can people do if they want to help on an individual level?
Well, thanks for asking. They can download their raw data if they've tested their DNA anywhere, upload it to GEDmatch, DNA Justice, and Family Tree DNA. And at GEDmatch, they also need to check the box that says that law enforcement can compare against their DNA. And that they can help us solve lots of cases, right? We have hundreds of, or I'd say thousands of cases in those databases right now that are waiting to be solved. So even if they didn't help solve Nancy's case, they may give answers to another family or survivor of violent crime.
CeCe Moore, great to have you back on again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.